And Jonathan Turley joins us now. Jonathan, you are a constitutional law attorney. What do you think of the argument where Maduro, he said this yesterday: I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man, the constitutional president of my country. And the judge said, just wait, slow your roll. There's time to talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what is more debatable, that he's a decent man or the president of his country, but I'll go with the latter one. There are 50 countries that disagree with his statement that he has ever been the president of that country. He took over the country after losing an election, and he's in an even worse position than his predecessor, Noriega, who also made the same claimed that he was the head of state, and lost across the board on various levels. So that dog won't hunt for Maduro, very likely. I expect he's going to lose these threshold claims. A lot of pundits and politicians have been saying that his arrest is unlawful. Well, I think the administration is saying, bring it on. You're in a very good jurisdiction for Democrats, obviously. It's not a good place for Trump historically. This judge has been very critical of Trump in the past. So we'll see how that works out. But I got to tell you, I do not expect that he will be successful in these challenges.
A couple things here. Go back to Pam Bondi last night with Sean. We played one clip. Here's another about the law enforcement function there.
And this was well within the president's Article 2 powers. It was a law enforcement function to arrest indicted individuals in Venezuela. Our military pulled off a flawless execution of that. It was amazing. And, Sean, America and the Western Hemisphere is safer tonight.
So you match that with what the Wall Street Journal editorial board pens this morning. The international law illusion in Venezuela: the rogues of the world break all the rules only to deploy them against law-abiding democracies as a way to continue in their lawlessness, which you hear from a lot of people on the left. They're saying, you know, this was a violation of international law. By the way, what we found out yesterday for Noriega, it took 20 months to get to trial. The trial lasted 7 months, all total 30 months from his capture to his conviction. Is that what we're in for?
Yes, but I think it's going to be even more difficult. I've been on the defense side in the past in classified national security cases, and I got to tell you, it's like invading Russia in winter. I mean, the minute you're designated as the cleared counsel, as I've been in those cases, you sit in a little metal room called a skiff, and you go through each of those documents. And as defense counsel, you're going to want to see them, and you're going to challenge them. These are documents that were gathered, evidence that was gathered for national security purposes, not with a prosecution in mind. So it takes a long time. So we're not going to see a jury at least for a year. If we have a trial within a year, it will be a truly impressive pace. But in terms of the case against Maduro, keep in mind that the indictment here is really crushing. Among other evidence that could very well come forward, you're going to have testimony potentially of his former head of military intelligence who confessed to being part of a drug cartel with Maduro. That's pretty devastating type of testimony that could be coming out.
There's so many things to ask about. One of them, I do want to ask about something in regards to what the Wall Street Journal editorial board was saying. You have countries in the region saying that they support the action. And then yesterday at the UN Security Council, you had France complaining. And I wonder about...
And others.
Those, well, yeah, the others did too, but I just noticed, okay, France, sit down.
Well, you know, France, I thought, was, with you, Dana, I thought that was quite notable. You know, after we snatched Noriega, France asked to prosecute him. And so they previously not only did not object to Noriega being captured, they actually relied on that capture for their own criminal prosecutions. Now, much of this cocaine coming out of Venezuela was going to France and the rest of Europe. So it's a little bit incoherent as to the position of France today as opposed to the position before. But, you know, you have a real division here. You've got House Democrats and House Senate members on the Democratic side who are not objecting to the capture. Lawrence Jones actually just got Senator Shaheen just less than an hour ago to say that she does not object to the capture of Maduro. He asked point blank, should we have not captured Maduro? And she said no. She's just worried about the aftermath. So there's much more division here than it may appear.
That's a very fair point there. Quickly, a story that got way overlooked, and I think we have to give it its proper due. In Cincinnati over the weekend, J.D. Vance's home was apparently ransacked or broken into. A guy with a hammer. Here's what he said on X. That's the home. He said, as far as I can tell, a crazy person tried to break in by hammering the windows. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and Cincinnati police for responding quickly. So here is the suspect, age 26, William DeFore, back in April of 23, charged with trespassing at the UC Health Psychiatric Emergency Services. 2024, charged with 2 counts of vandalism, breaking windows at a business in Hyde Park, which is a local community there. October of 2024, Hamilton County Court granted mother legal guardianship. There might be a question about his mental state. It sort of reminded me about the hammer incident in San Francisco with Nancy Pelosi's husband. I'm not making a connection there. I'm just saying there might be a similarity. Just a quick thought on. By the way, Vance's family was not home. They had been there for the weekend, and we're back in Washington, D.C. by then.
You know, Bill and Dana, we've talked about this on the show before. I mean, what this really shows us is that there are these individuals out there who hear the rage rhetoric coming from the left. It also can come from the right. But those people who are trafficking in rage are feeding this addiction. And there are these people, like DeFore, who will take that as a license, that these are people who are on a hair trigger. And we have to really call these politicians and pundits to account to say, knock it off. We've got to reduce the rage in this country and get back to debating.
All right, Jonathan Turley, great way to kick us off today on this busy day as the fallout continues. Thank you so much.
So now back to what we're learning about.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.